Hello, good morning, LinkedIn. It's Lucy Owens here. It's great to be here back again for another one of these LinkedIn live sessions. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. I am in, well, normally I would say I'm in sunny Spain. It's not so sunny at the moment. It has been pretty torrential rain here for the past week, and still very wet and very rainy this week too. So I hope where you are, perhaps it's a bit sunnier and a bit drier as well. If you're here with me live, welcome. Feel free to say hello and feel free to drop your comments and drop your questions into the comments as we go along, so that I can answer those for you as we go along. This is going to be a pretty juicy topic today. And if you're watching this back on the replay, welcome to you too. Today's conversation that I want to talk about is about staying relevant. And this is, I'm talking about this because most women that I work with, they are over 40. I'm over 40 myself. And they're not wanting to chase or buy, every single latest trend. They recognize, like, this is a bit of a different time of our lives, right? And it's also often a time of our lives where we're done pretending, we're not trying to be anyone that we're not. But, certainly for the women that I work with, and for myself as well, it's important that we still want to it's important that they still want to make sure that they are seen and that they come across as they want to be seen. So that's what I'm going to be getting into today. It's this topic around how can you stay relevant, and what are some of the things that we can do from a visual image and perspective that are going to support that relevancy, particularly in what is now like a pretty, crowded market, particularly if we're talking about in the professional world. Now, if there's some background noise that you can hear, my apologies. There's some workmen here, and sometimes they like to get pretty loud with the banging, but let's hope we can make it through. Okay, so as I mentioned, let me know where are you tuning in from today if you're here joining me live. And I want to kick off with this. This was something that was a study that the Harvard Business Review did, and they did a bit of a study around age bias. We know that age bias exists, and it is tougher for women. What they found in their study, I'm just going to, hopefully this is going to drown some of the noise in the background, if you do hear any banging. So let me just rewind back. I was talking about a study that was done in the Harvard Business Review, and what they found was that age bias for women tends to start around age 40. Now, when I read that, I thought that's pretty young. For men, it's closer to 47. So I guess the irony in some way about this is, for the women that I work with, this stage of life, really represents them moving into, the peak of their professional capability. They're moving into bigger roles. They've got the experience, they've got all the wisdom behind them, and they're suddenly dealing with this bias in perception around their age. And so the question becomes, as we do age, as we go past that 40, when we've got this other bias kicking in, how can you, as a senior professional woman, how can you stay visible, and how can you stay credible, and how can you stay relevant in an environment that isn't always neutral? And it's one that we do need to be able to deal with, right? It's the reality, and we need to have a look at what are some of the ways that we can still position ourselves in a really, really powerful way. I think the trap that women can fall into is we often think we just need to work harder, or we need to, prove ourselves and, really, really put in all the time and the effort, and we hope that we're going to be noticed. And that's what's going to help us, keep moving and getting the roles and the promotions and so forth that we require. As we get older, that kind of just focus purely on the capability and the performance, it doesn't work. It won't work as the only piece that you work on. Yes, of course, we still need to keep our capabilities up to date. Particularly, it's the world is fast moving. There is new technologies. Look at what has happened over the past few years with AI. We do need to make sure that we are keeping up with our capabilities and staying up to date in our industry. But that alone isn't enough. And what also we need to make sure is that our visual message and having a relevant and impactful image that reinforces your professional value, that is what is going to help also give you that relevance in the marketplace. And it is important that we're relevant in the marketplace, not just from that credibility perspective, but also that people see us as being relevant as well. And that's where I'm going to be giving you some guidance around that today. The reality is, we're always, we're listening to people, we're using our auditory, right, functions and senses, and we're taking in what other people say, but we're also looking. We're always also taking in what's in front of us. And we're also using all our senses to make sense of it. And so just in an example of an interview scenario, for example, if you are sitting there presenting yourself as having the experience, being up to date in your industry, being on top of all the trends and so forth, and someone's listening to that and they're taking it in, we also need to reinforce that message and that value through our visual. If we don't reinforce it through the visual, then something's off. Something will feel misaligned for someone. Now, even if they can't put their finger on exactly what it is, we are also pretty intuitive people, and sometimes we'll just get a sensation that something's not quite right. And so we don't want to go out there into the market with a mixed message. We want to make sure that the visual is aligned and that we're having that visual and impactful visual. We're having that relevant and impactful image as well. So, what's the biggest challenge around this? After working with hundreds of senior women, as I've mentioned, most women I work with are senior stages of their career. They are in their 40s or older, and I can say that I see one major challenge that comes up time and time again. Now, you might also feel this, or you might feel a version of this. If you want to share that, please feel free to do in the comments. The biggest challenge that I see around this is once women get to their 40s, they feel unsure how to evolve their style. When you're younger, you can get away with more. Style can feel a bit easier. And then suddenly you can get to your 40s and you have this feeling that what once worked doesn't quite work anymore, right? Your style has been able to get you to this point, but you now feel that you can't move beyond that. That you are, for a lot of women, it can feel like this stuckness, and they don't actually know how to then move beyond that. And style is there to give you confidence. It's there to support you. It's a tool that you have to use in your, professional toolbox. And if it's not giving the confidence, it's not giving you the confidence that you desire, and it's not reinforcing your value, and it's not reinforcing your capability, what happens is there is an internal sensation of that, right? We can feel that sense of misalignment, and that tends to get converted into and send a mixed message externally as well. And so that is when most women, they start to feel, I need a change, right? And if we think about, often for women, being in your 20s, being in your 30s, if you're still dressing like that in your 40s, very much it can feel that your style hasn't evolved. What we once wore at that time, it may not feel connected to who you are today. Your style is inherently tied to who you are and your identity. And so then if we're still dressing, 5, 10, 20 years behind from who we are today, then we can feel very, very disconnected. And externally, that means that we are not perceived as relevant, as current, or as up to date as we want to be. So the first point I want to make around relevance, because I think this is where we can get we can lose track, is that relevance is not about trends and staying up to date or whatever is in the absolute latest trends coming off the runway and in the stores. It's not about that. And most women that I work with, as I mentioned, they don't want to be, in the latest trends. I've moved beyond that too. Sure, there's some trends that I'll do because they align with my style, but I'm not running out there buying every single latest trend that comes into the stores. What relevance is about is about having a style and a wardrobe that truly represents you today in the now. Not 5 years ago, not 10 years ago. A wardrobe and style that represents you today in the now, who you are today. And I've done a lot of wardrobe reviews for clients, and going and doing those wardrobe reviews for clients, it's always about a balance of having a look at the pieces in that wardrobe. There were always some great pieces, we could find. It was never about clearing everything out, but it was looking at it with a really, really objective eye and saying, does this make sense to the person that you are today, and what doesn't make sense. Because if there's pieces that are hanging in your wardrobe right now that are doing nothing to help you establish the professional value and the professional relevance that you're seeking, and that is part of who you are, then you need to let those items go. And you need to get ruthless, right? You actually need to get ruthless with your wardrobe. We tend to get hung up on clothing, particularly women. We get emotionally attached to clothing. We don't want to let things go. We might not know what else to buy. If we don't know what else to buy, we're going to tend to hold on to things because they give us some sense of safety and comfort. But I want you to ask yourself, does my wardrobe reflect who I am today? Not who I was 5 years or 10 years ago. Now, I'm not saying you can't have pieces from 5 or 10 years ago. I do. I have some great classic, pieces that transcend, seasons, and they go over and over, and I still will pull those out and wear those. But they can still be seen as current and contemporary. And they still fit my style, and they still make me feel great when I wear them. So you can still definitely have those pieces from the past. Recommend that, we use our wardrobe as much as we can, and we have those pieces for a long time. But this is about really objectively asking yourself, what is hanging in front of me in this wardrobe, is this reflecting who I am today? Because that is the determinator of whether that's going to help you be seen as relevant or not today. This is resonating. Let me know in the comments. Hi, Nadia, in your early 50s here. Great to see you. Shafiq, lovely to see you here. I want to tell you about a client. Let's call this client Jane for the purposes of this session. When Jane came to me, I remember her words to me. She said, "I feel like a frumpy, middle-aged woman." She was in her 50s. She'd had an incredible corporate career up until that point. She then had exited from corporate, her choice, and she was now going into consulting, and she was now looking to go into and do some board roles. And when we looked at her wardrobe and really sat down and reviewed the pieces that were in there, it was very obvious to both myself and also to my client that it was stuck in the past. There were pieces that represented totally different phases of her life, different phases of her working life, very different environments, to even the ones that that she was in and that she was going to be stepping into. Outdated clothes represent outdated versions of ourselves and who we are. And for Jane, in 10 years, perhaps even a bit longer, like 10, 15 years, her wardrobe hadn't evolved. It was absolutely screaming out for freshness, for new life. It needed, she wanted some timeless staples, right? But that timeless staples in that they were contemporary and current for the now, right? So they would remain relevant. They would remain relevant in her wardrobe. We updated her blazers, like we updated the cuts, we updated the colors, we added texture, we updated the cuts of her pants. There were some things that were just obviously outdated. And those outdated pieces that feel tied to outdated versions and tied to outdated phases of our life will absolutely undermine the relevance and the credibility that you want to have today. Now, the other thing I want to mention about Jane is she was willing to let go. As I mentioned before, it's easy to get attached. It's really easy to get attached to clothing, and there's a whole bunch of reasons. I'm not going to go into it all today, but there's a whole bunch of reasons why we can hang on to clothing. And if we want to maintain the relevance and make sure our wardrobe is maintaining relevance and it's up to date and it's current, we've got to be willing to let some pieces go when they're outdated and they're tied to older versions. Sharon, great to see you here. Okay, so I've just spoken about, it's not about trends. I want to share now another really, really important part of relevance and something that becomes incredibly important post 40. And this is fit. Fit at this age matters more than ever. When something fits you beautifully, it looks polished, it looks modern. And what I so often see from women, particularly post 40, is they try to hide. That might be because they're on a weight journey, they've put on weight, they're in the middle of, trying to get back to an ideal weight. There's changes in body shape, whether that's through having kids, through going through menopause, through perimenopause. And the default can often be to wear clothing that makes us kind of hide. The problem with that is it stops us from expressing ourselves because there's this sensation of putting on the clothing to do this. And we're dimming our own light when we do that. And so often we're waiting for, we might be waiting for some time in the future when we might be, X kilos or whatever weight it is that we're trying to reach. And we forget about making ourselves confident in the now. And so my advice around this is invest and wear pieces that fit you better. I often see women buying cheap, and they'll say they buy cheap because they don't want to invest, because I might change sizes, or they might not know what to invest in. But 5 pieces that fit you beautifully are better than 15 or 50 pieces that don't fit you well. And you don't necessarily need to buy super uber expensive pieces to get them to fit you well, but you need the right pieces for your body, the right tailored pieces, whether you are a size 6 or a size 16, the right lines, the right fabrics, the right fit. When it sits right on your body, that signals something to other people. Signals that you get it. Signals that you're aware of yourself, and you will feel a hell of a lot more comfortable when you're wearing clothing that fits you well. It will be comfortable. There's no reason to hide. It's often makes us look so much more flattering and slimmer when we do wear clothing that just fits us well, versus defaulting to pieces that might be baggy or oversized, and we just want to hide behind. Fit, super, super, super important, and adds the relevancy and the modernity to your look straight away. Okay, let me know if there's how that's landing for you. Okay, the next and final point I want to make around relevancy for you today is, this is something that I've heard many women say to me before we work together. And it goes like this. It's a version of, I don't want to look like I'm trying too hard. Tell me if you've ever felt something like that, particularly as we age. The funny thing is that when your style is very intentional and it's considered and it feels very, very aligned to who you are, it will feel so much effortless. And a really, really big part of this is having a signature look that is you. It's no one else's, it's you. And that signature look will evolve with you over time, but the core aesthetic of that will stay the same. And what that helps do is you start to show up much more consistently as you. But of course, we adapt to context. We want to adapt to the times, right? Times move on. But it's that you know who you are. You know how to translate that to your style. And you can adapt that over time. And that is what helps create relevance for you and your brand over time. And there's a lot of ease that comes with that. When you have that signature look, there's a lot of ease that comes with it because it feels like you, and it also becomes a recognizable part of you. And I truly believe, post 40, this is an incredible time, I think, as women, for growth, for self-reflection. It's a time when, if we allow ourselves to, we can fully and really embrace who we are. And style is a wonderful, incredible avenue that we have for further development and expression, to understand ourselves at a deeper level, to understand how we can then translate that into a style that is really going to serve us and is really going to feel like an authentic extension of who we are. And so I believe it's really important as women that you are willing to put yourself first so that you can understand your style. It is the knowledge, the deeper connection with self, the understanding of who you are and what your style's communicating about who you are, that is going to help you build the relevance. Allows you to also get the most use out of your wardrobe, right? Because you're not flitting from, this style inspiration to, well, this is in the stores now, right? You've got consideration and thinking behind it. And the consideration and thinking is possible when you've got a framework and an understanding of who you are. I truly believe this is one of the most important parts of your style. When we come from a place of knowledge and understanding, it allows us to make really, really powerful decisions around our style. And being relevant isn't about constantly reinventing your style. But as I mentioned, we evolve as people. We change and evolve daily, sometimes even hourly, right? We are constantly evolving and changing. Think about who you were 1 year ago. Think about who you were 5 or 10 years ago. You have evolved as a person. And so relevance, particularly when it comes to your visual image and your style, it is about refining how you show up over time so that you remain visible. It's not about reinvention, but we need to have that core deep understanding of who we are first. Tell me, ladies, for who's here, what was the point that resonated with you most around what I shared with you today? I think this is a really, really important topic. I'm going to be sharing some more around relevance next week. So look out for some of the posts on LinkedIn that I'll share next week from this session. And lovely to have the ladies here joining me live today. Now, if this is something that you want support with, if something that I've shared with you today in this has struck a chord, you've resonated with something here, and you feel that you're ready for change, you're ready to explore what it might look like to get some support, to look at evolving your own style in a way that feels true and current to you, and of course relevant to you, you can message me after this live, and very, very happy to explore that with you. Gosh, 30 minutes has already passed. That has gone really, really quick today. If there's no further comments or questions, might have covered everything through the session, which is great to hear. I'll be back next week with another session. I'm actually going to have a guest next week. It's going to be a great session. We are going to be talking about all things leadership, credibility, and presence. So stay tuned for that. I'll be sharing details tomorrow about next week's session. But great to see you, Nadia, Shafkeek. Hope I'm saying your name right. Sharon, great to see you here. And yeah, reach out to me if you do want. If something's really resonated or struck a chord today, reach out to me. Otherwise, I'll see everyone next week. Thanks so much for your time today.